Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers, and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button right now.
Blue Jay fans, buckle up because we are entering the most critical phase of this entire offseason. The Kyle Tucker sweepstakes just shifted into overdrive, and honestly, I think we could wake up any day now to breaking news that changes everything for this franchise. Last night, multiple insiders dropped some absolutely massive information that has the entire baseball world buzzing right now. Teams are finally putting real money on the table, concrete offers are being submitted, and yes, your Toronto Blue Jays are right in the thick of it all. This thing might actually be coming to a conclusion sooner than we think. What's happening, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. If you've been following along with me, you know we've been tracking every single development in this Kyle Tucker saga, and trust me when I say the developments from last night are absolutely huge. But here's what I really want to break down for you today, because it's not just about who's making offers, it's about understanding where the Blue Jays actually stand compared to everyone else chasing Tucker. Before we get into all the details, though, do me a favor and smash that like button, hit subscribe if you haven't already because we're bringing you daily Blue Jays content, and if you want to stay on top of every move this team makes, you need to be here. All right, let's dive into these reports because there's a lot to unpack. So Jesse Rogers drops this article, and the headline alone got my attention immediately. Kyle Tucker has received offers from the Mets and the Blue Jays. Now we're talking. This isn't speculation anymore. This isn't rumors about interest levels. These are actual concrete proposals on the table. Let's start with what we know about the Mets offer, because there's actually some numbers attached to this one. According to sources that spoke to ESPN, the Mets are coming in hot with an offer believed to be worth around $50 million per season. Yeah, you heard that right, $50 million annually. That's absolutely massive money we're talking about here. Then you've got Will Salmon providing some additional context. And when you start piecing together all these reports, you can start to see the structure of what the Mets are proposing. We're looking at something in the range of $120 to $140 million over 3 years. Do the math on that, and it checks out. We're talking about a short-term deal with an absolutely massive average annual value of $50 million per year. And honestly, this is exactly what we should have expected from Steve Cohen and the Mets. This has been their playbook, right? They love these high AAV shorter-term deals. It gives them flexibility. It gives the player a chance to cash in huge right now and then hit free agency again while they're still in their prime. But here's where it gets really interesting for us Blue Jay fans. The other team that's made an offer is Toronto, and while we don't have all the juicy details like we do with the Mets, we do know something crucial. According to Jesse Rogers, the Blue Jays have submitted a long-term offer to Kyle Tucker. Long-term, not short-term like the Mets. This is a completely different approach, and honestly, it makes perfect sense for what the Blue Jays are trying to build here. Now, we have to assume that if it's a longer-term deal, the AAV probably isn't going to be quite as high as that $50 million the Mets are throwing around. I mean, if the Blue Jays were offering $50 million annually on a long-term deal, Tucker would have already accepted it, right? But that doesn't mean the total value isn't competitive. It's just structured differently. Ken Rosenthal chimed in too, and I know some people have been giving Ken a hard time because he's gone back and forth on some of his Tucker reporting, but he said something yesterday that I completely agree with. He wouldn't be surprised if Tucker makes his decision this week, next week, or sometime very soon. And when you look at everything that's happening, all these details suddenly becoming public, offers being revealed, it really does feel like we're approaching the finish line here. Things are coming to a head. Here's my take on where the Blue Jays sit right now, and I genuinely think they're in a really strong position. Think about what's happened here. The Blue Jays have been patient, they've been waiting, and now other teams are finally putting their cards on the table. The Mets just showed their hand with this high AAV short-term approach. That's leverage for Toronto. They can now see what the competition looks like, and they can respond accordingly. It's been reported all along that the Blue Jays have the ability to offer the most money overall and the longest term. They just needed someone else to make a competitive offer first so they could calibrate where they need to be. That's smart negotiating. And notice something else. We still don't have the full details of the Blue Jays' offer. That's not an accident. There's no competitive advantage for Toronto to leak their full proposal right now. In past years, we've seen the Blue Jays get used as leverage, and suddenly all the details of their offers were public knowledge. That happened because other teams wanted that information out there, so the player's preferred destination could match or beat it. But this time feels different. This feels like a role reversal. The Blue Jays are holding their cards close while everyone else shows their hands first. That's a much better position to be in. We still haven't even heard what the Dodgers might do here. Are they going to counter the Mets? Are they going to try to blow everyone out of the water? The Blue Jays are waiting to see what else develops before they make their final move. That's patient, that's strategic, and honestly, that's exactly how you want to approach a negotiation like this. Now, I did see something interesting pop up last night that's worth discussing. Tony Metro put out this take about why the Mets might have a competitive advantage over the Blue Jays and Dodgers, and it's actually a pretty thoughtful point. His argument is basically this: both the Dodgers and Blue Jays have already signed players who had qualifying offers attached to them this offseason. For the Blue Jays, that was Dylan Cease. The Mets haven't done that yet. So what does that mean? It means if Toronto signs Tucker, they'd be forfeiting even more draft picks. We're talking about their 2nd and 5th round picks, or possibly their 3rd and 6th, depending on their record. No team has ever signed 2 players with qualifying offers in the same offseason before. That's a lot of draft capital to give up. But here's my counter to that argument, and I think it's a strong one. If the Blue Jays land Kyle Tucker, they're set up to compete at the highest level for the next 5 years minimum. Missing out on the 2026 draft hurts, sure, but when you look at their current roster construction and their competitive window, they probably don't even have room for those draft picks to make an impact for several years anyway. Their window is now and for the foreseeable future. They can afford a temporary lull in their farm system development if it means they're icing a legitimate championship contender. Draft picks are valuable, but proven elite talent like Tucker is invaluable. You make that trade every single time if you're trying to win. And then to cap everything off, Ben Nicholson-Smith went on Sportsnet last night and said something that got everyone talking. He was discussing Tucker and Bo Bichette with Tim McAuliffe, and at one point he said the Mets and Dodgers should be scared when talking about the Blue Jays' competitiveness for Tucker. Now, Ben is typically very measured in how he reports things. He doesn't usually make bold declarative statements like that, so people are reading into it. Was he slipping? Was that his genuine feeling coming